Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Charlotte Wildlife Stewards March program, which is Nature Preserves of Mecklenburg County. I want to start off with who we are. We are the Charlotte Wildlife Stewards, and we're a local chapter of the North Carolina Wildlife Federation. We're one of 19 local chapters across the state, and our mission is to create, preserve, and protect wildlife through education, engagement, and enjoyment. We have an all-volunteer leadership team made up of myself, Margaret Sexton is president, Ernie McLaney is past president, Donna Bowles is vice president, Eric Mick is a treasurer, Caroline Brenniger is a secretary, with Amanda Carlisle, Danya Hawley, Clyde Kaiser, Connie Harris, and Sandy Dixon all serving as board members at large. Do you know that the city of Charlotte has 1,385 certified wildlife habitats and that 128 of them was added just last year? Do you know that you only need 5 items to certify your property as a habitat by the National Wildlife Federation? You only have to supply food, which can be native plants or trees which provide food, and you can supplement it with feeders. You need to have water. All living things need water, and it can be supplied either naturally, either by stream, pond, or lake, or by fountain or bird bath. You need to have shelter, which is can be provided by having native plants, trees, and can be supplemented with brush piles or houses. You need a place to raise young, which again could be native plants or trees and can be supplemented with houses. You need to practice sustainable landscape practices, such as having a rain barrel, planting native plants, composting, or eliminating invasive species. You can become involved by volunteering at an event, participating in our events and contests, or joining our chapter via the North Carolina Wildlife Federation. You can assist in one of the chapter committees, such as communications, education, events, programs, finance, or marketing. You can get involved and served on our leadership board. You can donate to our chapter, which is a 501(c)(3) entity. Or you can become a corporate sponsor, or you can do any or all of those. By joining the Charlotte Wildlife Stewards, you get a monthly North Carolina Wildlife Federation newsletter called the Wildlife Wire. You get a quarterly NCWF journal called Wild Lives, Wild Places. You get access to members-only events, which we have 3 to 4 a year. You get to network with other nature lovers from across the state, and especially Mecklenburg County. And you get bragging rights. Most recently, we've won Chapter of the Year and Proud Partner of the Canopy. We want to thank our current sponsors, Wild Birds Unlimited and Honeybee Realty. Without their financial support, we wouldn't be able to host some of the events and programs that we do. Our current upcoming events include I Spy, Insects in Winter, which is an ongoing virtual event. And we have a contest for the month of March. And if you go to that link, you will get to see the program. And we also have a group read, The Nature of Nature. And we're encouraging people to read or post their thoughts about the book on our Facebook or any of our other social media accounts. Our April program, which will be the second Tuesday of April, pollinator gardening in the Piedmont. We hope to have you join us for that. We're also going to have a silent auction in April. Right now it's scheduled for the 16th through the 25th. And if you'll stay tuned on our social media pages, you'll have more details. Currently, we have several items ranging from a jigsaw puzzle up to a 3-night stay in Bryson City. So put that on your calendar. In June, right now it's June 12th through the 20th, we're scheduling a Wild on the Water, Wild in the Woods fundraiser. And again, stay tuned on our social media pages for more details about that. We're still in the planning stages. Now, our Vice President, Donna Bowles, is going to introduce our speaker and program for the evening. So, Donna, take it away.
Hey, so we're going to learn all about these treasures that we have in Mecklenburg County. Matthew Morgan is an environmental educator with Mecklenburg County Parks and Rec. He was a city kid growing up in Atlanta, but has always been fascinated with nature and wildlife. He loved watching nature documentaries as well as shows and movies about animals, so he and I are kindred spirits here. After graduating with a degree in biology from Maryville College, Matthew volunteered at the Atlanta Aquarium, worked at Zoo Atlanta and the Tennessee Aquarium. He's passionate about wildlife and conservation and loves his job educating visitors at Stevens Creek Nature Preserve. I want to add that I met Matthew back in October of 2019 at our last Kids in Nature Day event. He was there representing Stevens Creek Nature Preserve, and I was just so impressed by his knowledge, his enthusiasm, the way he connected with the kids and the adults, and we're just tickled that he's going to be sharing with us tonight. Okay, Matthew, it's you.
Well, thank you, Donna, and thank you everyone for coming out and attending this program tonight. I pray that I provide enough information for you guys to take with you and to explore these nature preserves around the county, because such beautiful weather outside. With that being said, thank you again for the Charlotte Wildlife Stewards, Mrs. Donna Bull, thank you, Margaret Sexton, thank you to North Carolina Wildlife Federation, Tara Moore, thank you. It is an honor and a privilege to present this information to you all. Just going to focus on quite a few nature preserves, as I stated earlier, around the county, because there are a lot, but I'm going to focus on more the accessible ones. There's certain ones that are certainly well underdeveloped, and they're just utilized for more of just natural habitat. And so I'm going to focus on the ones that we can visit and we can enjoy our time in nature. So hope everybody can see. So like I said, thank you again. I am an environmental educator, as Mrs. Donna Bull stated, at Stevens Creek Nature Center and Preserve. And I'm a part of the Division of Nature Preserves and Natural Resources. And so our theme is to protect the regions, the biodiversity, and natural heritage its inherent value for the benefit of future generations by promoting open space preservation, conserving natural communities, and fostering awareness and stewardship through environmental education and outdoor recreation. And our vision is to have natural communities exist within Mecklenburg County in perpetuity, and for these interconnected, high-quality natural areas to benefit and be valued by all citizens. It is my job to inform everyone about the unique things about our natural area through the use of environmental education, and hopefully foster positive attitudes so you can make informed decisions about wildlife and conservation and the natural world in general. So, part of this presentation, I'm going to dive into a little bit of the history of the nature preserves here in the county, because I don't think a lot of people know about the history around here. So I just want to dive into that aspect first, okay? In terms of the history of the nature preserves and natural resources. So if you ever been to any of the parks around the county, our very first park actually was Mcdowell Nature Preserve, or what it was called Mcdowell Park, which I believe was purchased in 1975. And by 1981, we had 3 parks here in the county, which were Mcdowell, Latta Nature Plantation Park and Preserve, and Mcalpine. And just a side note for everyone, that picture on your screen is actually a picture taken from me at Mcalpine. I'm a particular birder. I love to go bird watching, and Mcalpine is a great park to go bird watching. But back to the history. So by 1991, our properties combined with the Charlotte Park System, which created the Mecklenburg County Park and Recreation Department. And the Division of Nature Preserves and Natural Resources was actually born in 1993 after there was apparently it was a conservation initiative that was held at, I believe, at Atlanta Nature Preserve, which led to the purchase of Cowan's Wildlife Refuge, Royal Hill Nature Preserve, and additional land throughout the county. So, and with this division, starting off, the mission of it was the group would be to protect the area's biodiversity and natural heritage for generations to come. So I would say my division of the county Park and Recreation Department, still fairly new, still fairly young, but we're making headway out here. Just to give you a perspective about in terms of the nature preserves around the county and the Charlotte Mecklenburg area, although there's a lot, there in terms of actual acreage, Charlotte actually has the least amount of land within a 25-mile radius than any other major metropolitan city in the Southeast. So that's the reason why my division of Park and Rec was created, is to expand on that and create more nature preserves so we can all have fun in the outdoors. Now, this may be a little bit hard to see, but this is actually the current of nature preserves around the county. There's actually about 27 nature preserves. Majority of the nature preserves are actually in the northwest corner of the county. Just last year, we had about 1.2 million visitors annually, which, to put in perspective to some of the national parks around the country, I believe Yosemite National Park had 3+ million. I think we're doing an excellent job in terms of advertising our nature preserves and having individuals come out, truly immerse themselves within our nature preserves around the county. So, as Mrs. Mcdowell stated, as I've stated earlier, I am environmental educator at Stevens Creek Nature Preserve, which is one of the newest nature preserves here in the county. It's actually located in about 281 acres of land, and we have roughly about 3 miles of trails. Now, 3 miles may be small or maybe less compared to some of the other nature preserves that have nature centers on their property, but we have a unique trail system. It's divided up with one extended trail that goes from the parking lot all the way out to Hooks Road, and that's called the Hill Splitter Trail. And both of these loops were named after certain things that were found on the property, either beforehand or after the fact that Mecklenburg County Park and Recreation purchased the property. So the first loop is actually classified as, actually named as Sawmill Loop, which apparently, according to the local residents, it was believed that we used to have a sawmill on the property. And then the second loop is named Quartz Loop. And there's a reason why. There are very large quartz structures on the property. I believe Stevens Creek Nature Center is very unique in a way because of our state-of-the-art visitor center, which is about 12,000 square feet. What I was stating earlier was the theme of our nature center is life in the watershed hangs in a balance. And that the reason why Stevens Creek was actually created is due to a unique mussel called the Carolina Hill Splitter, which is actually federally endangered. And it's only has about 4 to 6 populations within the watershed that Stevens Creek is located in, which I believe is the Rocky River watershed, which if you dive a little bit deeper into that watershed, we are located in the Goose Creek River Basin. And the Carolina Hill Splitter, just like many other mussels, is a bioindicator. And you're probably wondering, what does bioindicator mean? Organisms that determine the health of the stream or water source that they're in a nutshell. But y'all just bear with me as I pull this video up.
Stevens Creek Nature Preserve is the first Mecklenburg County park and recreation facility here in Mint Hill. To be able to access a whole new part of Charlotte, a whole new group of people that have never had a nature center right in their backyard is really, really exciting.
And so to have a large facility like this that really is kept as natural as it can be really helps keep that rural flavor. And we want to make sure that it's here for people to respect, to enjoy.
This nature center is really very inclusive to kids and adults. Anybody that wants to come here, we're going to have a program for you, or just wonderful interaction with maybe a live animal or one of our really great exhibits. Outside, the main feature of the property is the restored stream, and there will be a fully accessible trail. And then beyond that, there are about 3 miles of trails that are really lovely to hike over.
We really want folks to ultimately see this facility as their go-to place for just relaxing, being able to go out and walk, and just enjoy nature. To be able to provide recreation for the folks, in the county and the towns is really, really critical. And Mecklenburg County Park and Rec can't do it alone.
Mecklenburg County is really fortunate to have 3 other large nature preserves with nature centers already. So by us being here in Mint Hill, we've kind of closed off that 4th quarter and really filled a gap. So it's almost like you're visiting the animals and the plants home, as opposed to being in a space that was created just for humans.
The Stevens Creek Nature Center is really one of our flagship facilities, and we hope that it'll be a focal point for environmental education, public recreation, and community resource for all the residents here.
All right, so that's just a sneak preview of Stevens Creek Nature Preserve and Center. Just a little extrapolation on some of the things that you saw within the video. And there will be a stream display inside the actual nature center itself, which holds about 2,200 gallons of water. There will be a lot of native fish within the very 2 large tanks within that stream display. There will be there's kinetic sand table for the children to create their own watershed, create their own mountain range. And if they're tall enough and they can spread out their hands above the kinetic sand table, they can actually make it rain down on their terrain that they created. Along with that, if you looked at throughout the video, there was a portion of a map of the Rocky River watershed, and it was actually done by a artist, local artist here in Charlotte, who created that map utilizing the clay from the creek itself and created all these different types of colors from the creek to post on that map. So it's really unique nature center and preserve, and I hope you all will be ready for it. A lot of unique outdoor recreation activities at Stevens Creek Nature Center, including archery, which not many other nature centers around the county can actually do that. I think we are the only one that can actually do that. So be on the lookout for Stevens Creek Nature Center opening up their doors. But in the meantime, our trails are open to the general public. So if you would like to come out, feel free to come out. This next one up is Reedy Creek Nature Center and Preserve, and it's actually a park mix. It's a park and a preserve. So it's about 120 something plus acres of park with disc golf opportunity as well as basketball courts and I believe a baseball field and a dog park. So if you have dogs, make your way over there. But along with that, you have the Reedy Creek Nature Preserve, which is about 830 plus acres. So in total, the park and the preserve is about 927 acres. And I will tell you, it's very unique in terms of birding habitat. One of my coworkers spotted a rufous hummingbird at their hummingbird feeder. Thank you to the National Wildlife Federation for certifying our backyard our nature center at Reedy Creek as a backyard habitat garden, because a lot of different animals come and utilize our bird feeders and our little pond at the nature center. One unique aspect of the preserve itself is the Robinson Rock House ruin, which is actually on the National Register of Historic Places. It's probably the farthest out in terms of the trails. It's roughly about 10 miles of trails at Reedy Creek Nature Preserve. But tell you, once you get to the Rock House ruins, you're not going to regret it because it's very calming, it's very relaxing. It's like you're fully immersed in a forest, but you still have an urban setting next door to you. But it's really cool. I found unique wildlife around that ruins, including a residential black rat snake who inhabits the walls of the ruins. But along with the Robinson Rock House ruins, we also at Reedy Creek Nature Center is home to the Biodiversity Center, Center for the Biodiversity Studies, Dr. James F. Matthews, who is actually the father of the director of Mecklenburg County Nature Preserves and Natural Resources, Chris Matthews, as well. One unique event that always happens at Reedy Creek Nature Center and Preserve is annually we have a Hummingbird Festival, which usually occurs in August. It's going to be virtual this year as it was last year, but hopefully in 2022 it will be in person. But be on the lookout for all the unique online opportunities that the Hummingbird Festival will offer. Hoping that y'all will have a good time with that. All right. So next, one of I would say this is probably up there with Stevens Creek in terms of my favorite nature preserves, but it's Latta Nature Preserve, formerly known as Latta Plantation, which is the largest preserve in the county. It has roughly about almost 1,500 acres on the property itself. Latta is actually situated at Mountain Island Lake, which was actually owned by Duke Power for about 50 years until the late 1970s, early 1980s, where the county park and recreation system actually purchased the property. And if you do not know, Mountain Island Lake is actually it's a viable water source for the Charlotte Mecklenburg area. About roughly 700,000 residents between the Mecklenburg County and Gaston counties actually get their drinking water from Mountain Island Lake. Love this preserve itself. It has roughly about 16 miles of trails, not only hiking trails, but if you do like horseback riding, has horseback riding trails as well. So if you have some horses, bring them out to the Latta Nature Preserve. I guarantee you won't regret it. With that being said, Latta Nature Preserve and Latta Nature Center has actually undergone a change recently. So just like how Stevens Creek was developed, Latta Nature Center has actually moved from the original Nature Center to the larger facility, which is called Quest. And it's actually a partnership between the Carolina Raptor Center and Latta Nature Preserve itself. And the theme of our nature center at Latta is nothing survives without water.
We have a picture of a young man that I like to say that's the goal. And if you show this picture, his eyes are bugged out. It's amazing. It's that awe. We create these moments that people just, the aha moments, the wow moments, the I can't believe I just saw what I saw moments.
We really just want to share it with people and let them see this awesome resource that we've built for the community. Quest is what we're calling this facility. We have the two organizations, Park and Recreation, as well as the Carolina Raptor Center. We really want to see Quest be a cornerstone of Mecklenburg County and that gateway to those outdoor experiences. We really tried to focus the exhibit hall on that theme of nothing survives without water. So when you come in, you'll see some cool live animal exhibits. Then our kind of cornerstone of that is our massive fish tank, which will have some really cool native fish.
Here at the Raptor Center, which our new campus will be adjacent, they'll be able to experience 40 plus species of birds from around the world. We are the largest raptor hospital in the United States.
The appeal of this piece of property and this building is really that connection to the outdoors. Mecklenburg is a very developed county, so to have these large nature preserves where you can come and wander for hours without seeing other people or development is a real luxury. We have over 16 miles of hiking trails, plus a huge amount of shoreline where you can put your kayak in the water, your paddle board, or just take a stroll. And by partnering with the Carolina Raptor Center, we're able to kind of fill in the gaps and really do a better job together.
So our role really is to connect folks with the natural environment so they'll appreciate it, they'll understand it, they'll want to conserve it. Because as I like to tell people, until we find another planet in the solar system, this is our home. It's the only one we got, and we don't want to mess it up beyond the point that it won't sustain us.
So just like that video illustrated, it's going to be a lot to offer at Quest. I am truly excited about this partnership that we have in conjunction with the Carolina Raptor Center, simply because I'm a bird fanatic. I've been to the Carolina Raptor Center quite a few times, and if you have not visited, I am going to shame you, because it is one of the premier facilities in the county, because it highlights so many unique birds of prey, from owls to falcons to eagles. They do have a golden eagle there, actually, and bald eagles as well. So be on the lookout for the Carolina Raptor Center and Latta Nature Center at Quest. Latta Nature Preserve was actually formerly named as Latta Plantation, and there's still the historic Latta Plantation on property. I believe they are still doing limited tours at the moment in time. So feel free to go to that facility, because it's very informative. That plantation was actually owned by James Latta family, which is actually where we got our nature preserve name from. In addition to all those unique organizations on the property itself is simply gorgeous. If you ever been there, there's a particular prairie that we have there that has an abundance amount of wild flowers and vegetation in general within the prairie. One particular wildflower, and it's a tongue twister, but it's called the Schweinsnit sunflower, which is a unique sunflower, to say the least, that is actually endangered, as well as a Georgia aster, which is a flower that's has this really beautiful purple. But the last of our nature preserves that actually have a nature center on property is Mcdowell Nature Preserves, and it's roughly about 1,100 plus acres. And as I stated earlier, it is the oldest park in Mecklenburg County. It's the only preserve in the county that actually has a campground, which you can reserve up to about 56 reservable campsites that range from some primitive sites to all the way up to RV hookups. Also at Mcdowell Nature Preserve, you also have Copperhead Island, which is about roughly 14 to 20 acres. You can just camp there. You can also go do kayak rentals there as well. So it's pretty unique island itself. One of my favorite things about Mcdowell Nature Preserve, though, is the beaver habitat there. So it has a unique beaver habitat located not too far from the nature center. I would say probably less than a half a mile, probably a quarter of a mile from the nature center itself. A lot of wading birds, such as great blue herons, occupied that area as well. So if you want to go see just what a beaver habitat looks like, definitely go out to Mcdowell Nature Preserve. And Mcdowell Nature Preserve is the home to an abundant amount of actually threatened and endangered species of wildflower and vegetation. So along with the Georgia aster, it's also home to the prairie dock, the checker white, and the smooth coneflower. And one unique area that I love at Mcdowell Nature Preserve is the prairie itself, where you can find unique birds over there. definitely visit Mcdowell Nature Preserve if you're on the southwest part of the county. If you live out near Carowinds, definitely make your way over to Mcdowell Nature Preserve. If you live in the Steel Creek area, definitely make your way. And if you're on the other side of the border, Fort Mill and Rock Hill, Mcdowell Nature Preserve is the place that you should go. Besides all the unique wildlife there and vegetation there, we also offer unique programming. So it's actually located on Lake Wiley, which is one of the 3 man-made lakes here on the Catawba River chain, which is Lake Wiley, Mountain Island Lake, and Lake Norman, which is the largest of the 3. So, like I said, go to Mcdowell Nature Preserve, check it out. Now, besides all the unique nature preserves that have nature centers on their property, there are abundance amount of nature preserves in general for the general public to access. One particular one is Cowan's Ford Wildlife Refuge, which is just north of Lotta Nature Preserve. It's located on 850 acres on a peninsula near Catawba River and Mountain Island Lake. And when I say it's a great birding habitat, it is. It actually has a wildlife viewing area where you could go out, and if you have particular wildlife viewing scopes or if you have binoculars, there's 2 ponds located on the property. One in particular usually has a unique bird called a belted kingfisher, usually diving in and scooping up the small fish in that pond. But also in the distance of Cowan's Ford Wildlife Refuge, on the power lines, there's actually signs of osprey's nests, which are a fish-loving bird of prey. They create these giant nests, I believe about 5 to 6 feet in diameter. It's Cowan's Wildlife Refuge is also home to other unique birds of prey. If you are a fan of the bald eagle, definitely go out to Cowan's Ford because you do have opportunity to view bald eagles themselves. But as I stated on the PowerPoint, there's a little bit limited access, so it doesn't have as many. It doesn't have trails, walking trails for the general public itself. You can walk up and down the access road to the preserve where you can see all different wildlife. I know I have encountered quite a few turtles crossing the road. Also on the site itself is the Holly Bend site, which is actually on the National Registry of Historic Places. So very unique nature preserve to say the least. So if you love wildlife viewing, definitely go out to Cowan's Ford Wildlife Refuge. All right. All right, now I know I talked to quite a few, I know I talked to Tara and Donna and Margaret before we started this presentation about Evergreen Nature Preserve. So if you're located on the east side of Charlotte, near the Sheffield Park area, you do have a local nature preserve in your backyard pretty much. So Evergreen Nature Preserves, roughly about 77 acres, and is bordered by 3 unique places. So at the entrance of the park, right across the street, is actually a middle school named Eastway Middle School. Then you have a cemetery on one end of, on another end of the park itself. And then you also have, I believe it's Winterfield Elementary, which is on the opposite side of the preserve itself. It has a lot of dense vegetation that provides a lot of cover for the local wildlife. If you go there, there's definitely a chance that you will run into barred owls in the area. I definitely ran into, I believe, 2 of them while I was walking in the preserve last year, and they were calling to each other actually. The next one I wanted to talk about is West Branch Nature Preserve. And it's actually located, I believe, in the Davidson area in the north part of Mecklenburg County. As stated on the PowerPoint itself, it's about 91 acres. But what is so unique about this preserve is that almost 90 to 95% of the Mecklenburg County amphibians have been found in this nature preserve alone, because it has a lot of wetland within the preserve itself. On this particular picture right here, you can find this particular species of salamander called the spotted salamander at this nature preserve, as well as the marble salamanders, which are quite large. They believe they can get up to about 5 to 8 inches in length. They are quite large individuals. Also at that preserve, because of the reason why it has had a lot of wetlands is because of the beaver activity that has been there since 1993. So this is another nature preserve for our beaver lovers in the house. If you would like to come out, go to West Branch, because you probably will see beaver activity around the wetlands themselves. Now, there's only about 1 mile trail, which was just recently created in 2012, but I guarantee you it is the place to be in terms of viewing beaver activity besides Mcdowell and amphibian activity as well. For my birders in the house, definitely go up to West Branch, because it provides a lot of habitat for waterfowl like northern pintails and mallards and godwalls and hooded mergansers. So definitely keep on the lookout. Definitely visit West Branch Nature Preserve, all right? Another unique nature preserve, which is located not too far from Uptown, actually. I would say it's about 15 minutes from Uptown itself, but it's Riverwalk Nature Preserve. Riverwalk, like I said, big birder, so it's a birding hotspot. It has roughly about 2 different ponds on the property, and the trail system is kind of more like in a circle, in a loop, and is the reason for it being named Riverwalk is how the trail's ribbon through the forest itself. Great nature preserve for birding in general. It provides a lot of habitat for migrants themselves. So I personally love Riverwalk. I've been there probably like 2 or 3 times within the last year, just exploring the trails there. Also, great nature preserve in our county, which is on the north side of town, not too far from Lotta, probably about 15 to 20 minutes from Lotta Nature Preserve, and it's located really close to the university area as well as the Mallard Creek area. And it's Clark's Creek Nature Preserve, which I believe was created within the last 3-4 years, I believe 2017 or 2018. And it's in conjunction with the Clark's Creek Community Park, where there's pickleball courts, there's basketball courts, as well as playgrounds. So this nature preserve is about 109 acres. And what is so unique about it is that it is protected habitat for unique wildlife on the property. As I stated in the PowerPoint, grasshopper sparrow and the eastern meadowlark. But also there's a pond on the property itself where you can see unique turtle species such as yellow belly sliders, as well as there is a common snapping turtle in that pond as well. And there's actually a chimney roost, which where chimney swifts actually go to roost in at night. This photo was actually taken by me on the preserve actually last spring. As you can see, it's very, very pretty. And then right near the pond itself, it actually has quite a few unique crayfish burrows where you can see a whole lot of crayfish digging up their homes and whatnot. So if you live in the Mallard Creek area or you're near University area, please feel free to visit Clark's Creek Nature Preserve. And this is just 2 pictures of the protected species at the preserve, the meadowlark, which will be on your left, and the grasshopper sparrow, which will be on your right. One nature preserve that I'm not that knowledgeable about, I have not been to, unfortunately, is Iswa Nature Preserve, which is on the west side of town. Actually, Iswa means the people of the river. It's actually a natural heritage site and was once part of the Catawba Nation. This particular nature preserve acts as habitat for a lot of wetland species, definitely for waterfowl as well. So it's also a nature preserve that has endangered species of wildflower. This picture right here is actually the picture of the Georgia aster, as I stated in previous slides in this presentation. So if you like pretty flowers, definitely go out to the Iswa Nature Preserve to view the Georgia aster. One of the formerly known as Stephens Road Nature Preserve, now called the Buckeye Cove Nature Preserve. One thing that stuck out to some of the people in Park and Recreation was that it was in the cove itself. And then there's a lot of buckeyes within the area. So naturally, they just decided to call it Buckeye Cove Nature Preserve. This is also located on the northwest part of town. As I showed you in the earlier part of my presentation, a lot of our nature preserves are located in that part of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area. But it's about 394 acres located on near the Catawba River, and once again, another nature preserve that has extensive marsh and wetlands for all the unique habitat for the native wildlife in the area itself. One cool preserve that I've been to recently is actually Big Rock Nature Preserve. The reason why it's called that is because it has this large granite rock formation in the heart of the park itself. It's actually located on the south side of town near, I believe, the Ballantyne area. And this rock formation is actually the largest in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area. It's a relatively small nature preserve at 22 acres, but it has a lot to offer. If you're in this area, if you ever just want to take your family and friends to sit on top of the rocks, feel free to do so because it's very relaxing. And also has a little small creek that runs next to it as well. So Big Rock Nature Preserve, definitely also a fan favorite of mine as nature preserves in regards to nature preserves. And this one I also visited recently is called the Flat Branch Nature Preserve, which is actually right across the street from Flat Branch Community School. It's roughly about just under a mile of trails itself. In the picture, it talks about how this is one of the last habitats of upland depression swamp forest, which provides habitat for many native amphibians such as the spotted salamander and the upland chorus frogs and other frog species as well. This is probably one of the newest, along with Stevens Creek Nature Preserve. It opened in late of 2019. And one unique aspect about this preserve, it has its own little mini Stonehenge at close to the very end of the about 1 mile loop of trail that it has. So if you're ever in the mood to just run or take your dog for a walk or have the kids just walk around outside, definitely visit Flat Branch Nature Preserve. But I also want to tackle quite a few of the conservation practices and projects that we have going on in order to sustain roughly 7,600 acres of land that we have here in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area. I'm very passionate about conservation, as Donna pointed out in her introduction. So I would like to talk to you about some of our conservation projects. So this picture is actually displayed on your screen. It's talking about illustrated the browse line, and browse line is essentially the line that the deer can reach in order to access and consume the vegetation. And if you ever been in a very heavily populated area, you will see that at a certain line, the browse line itself, the vegetation is completely clear. And so in order for us to manage the deer populations around the county, we have decided to do deer hunting, which has been running for the last 10 years. If you're a deer hunter in the audience, you definitely, if you want to be a part of this program, you definitely will have to have a license to hunt. But it usually starts on November 1st, and it's usually held at 3 of the nature preserves around the county: Cowan's Wildlife Refuge, Loudoun Nature Preserve, and Mcdowell Nature Preserve. And we usually close these preserves during this time to avoid, obviously, any injury to human life. But since we've been doing this, actually, deer, in terms of the actual deer populations, as I've been told, the Natural Resources Division has seen a remarkable difference within the deer health, the body score, and the population around the county itself. But that's not the only conservation practice that we do here. Another conservation practice, and this unique animal on my screen is actually the state reptile of North Carolina, eastern box turtle, and that's one of Stevens Creek ambassador animals named Freedom. But the Natural Resources decided to do, was starting up a conservation project with the North Carolina Wildlife Resource Commission at the Iswa and Buckeye Cove Nature Preserves. And in a nutshell, it's pretty much collecting telemetry data on eastern box turtles themselves. And we're using volunteer help from local college students to study this. If you're not aware, although the box turtle, eastern box turtle, is the state reptile of North Carolina, unfortunately has faced continued habitat loss. And our preserves around the county provide a lot of habitat for them. So when what we're trying to do is have the telemetry data as well as recapture to help monitor their populations around the county. So hopefully that their populations don't decline, because this is an actual priority species for us here in Mecklenburg County. Other unique conservation projects going on in the county. If you're a fan of earthworms, you might be upset about that. Now, I know the benefits of earthworms is they're major decomposers and they recycle nutrients. That's great for native earthworms, but unfortunately here in the county and many other places, we have invasive earthworm problem, actually. Because these invasive earthworms create a more moist environment, it actually inhibits us, inhibits our Natural Resource Division to conduct prescribed fires from moving across the ground, which that is our next conservation project that I will be talk about. We are the only division in Mecklenburg County to do prescribed fires. We do roughly about 20 birds a year over 750 to 900 acres. Obviously, it's weather dependent and has occurred over the last 10 years. Now, you may wonder why. Why do we do prescribed fire burns? Is it fire bad? Fire is actually a very good conservation method in order to promote growth within particular plant life. Like the wildflower that I mentioned earlier, the tongue twister, the Schweizernitz sunflower, actually depends on prescribed fire to grow. And prescribed fire actually is a good way to eliminate invasive species. A lot of invasive species do not know how to handle fires in their habitat. So this is a great conservation project that our Natural Resources Division does every year. Currently, they are doing some more burns, and they should be doing some more burns here throughout the month of March. I know they do burns at Cowan's Wildlife Refuge. I know they do it at Loudoun Nature Preserve, Mcdowell, among many other nature preserves around the county as well. So definitely a good conservation method, as I stated earlier. And last, but certainly not least, most of us, we know of or have heard of invasive plants. And that's one of our natural resources major conservation projects here in the county. And a lot of budget, a lot of funds go into goes into invasive plant removal. And this is all about restoring our habitats around the county. And if you ever seen invasive species like kudzu and periwinkle and wisteria and English ivy, although they can be very pretty and very beautiful when they bloom, unfortunately, they are detrimental to the native wildlife and plant life. And so it is our job, especially natural resources, to remove that. Our different ways of removal will be obviously pulling, cutting, herbicide application, or a combination of both. Our particular two that we target the most here in the county are autumn olive and kudzu vine. So these invasive plants are detrimental to the habitats that we have around the county. So it is up to our natural resources, as well as myself and other individuals in the county, to eliminate the invasive plants. I hope I've informed you all about the unique nature preserves and conservation projects that we have in the county. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit the chat.
Yeah, thanks. And I just wanted to say I learned so much. I took a full page of notes, and I've been living here for 3.5 years now, and I realized that there are a whole bunch of sites that I have not been to. So thank you, Matthew. That was super helpful. If anyone wants to put questions, you can put them in the chat. If you can't put them in the chat, you can raise your hand. So we'll start with Donna.
I want to say I've lived here for 44 years, and I learned a lot about the nature preserves. So I'm just tickled that we have these wild places in Mecklenburg County. So I have two questions. The first is, you mentioned that at Evergreen there are a lot of invasives there. If and when there's a project to go in and remove those invasives, do you ever get volunteers from the public to do that?
Yes. So I'm actually at my nature preserve. I know one of our natural resource coordinators, Zuri Carter, is actually in the process of actually putting an event together to get volunteers to go help out at Evergreen Nature Preserve. But like I said in the presentation itself, it's quite extensive over there. It's a jungle out there.
Yeah.
But definitely, we would definitely get volunteers for the general public. Absolutely.
How does she look for those? Does she go on social media?
She will. So we have our volunteer coordinator for Park and Rec department. Her name is Karen Howard, and she usually sends out a listserv to local volunteers asking for help in terms of anything. I know we just did at Stevens Creek, we just did a volunteer event planting half of our living wall at the nature center. And yes, people, we do have a living wall full with a lot of perennials.
Yay! Can you send me her email?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
we could get on her listserv. Okay. And my next question is about, you talked a lot about birds, and you mentioned beavers and turtles. What other animals, that we have all this natural area? So part of the point is to have wildlife in it. So what are the prevalent wildlife species that we have living in our city?
Ooh, great question. And I am so glad that you asked that, because I am an animal nerd, just like everybody else. I am an animal nerd. Where do I start? Well, we'll start with probably the most common one that you'll find across the nature preserves, white-tailed deer. You'll see them everywhere. Be on the lookout. I was just at Flat Branch today, and literally within 3 to 5 feet, Donna, I saw 2 white-tailed deer just staring at me. I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna hurt you. I just want to take your picture. That's it. We also have, obviously, coyotes. Don't be concerned about coyotes. They are definitely an important wildlife species here in the county. We also have we do have very few bobcats around here. We also have river otters. I think the last recorded sighting of a river otter was, I believe, in 2020. I think it's late February, if I'm not mistaken. Besides beavers, what else? Squirrels, if you're a squirrel fan like myself, eastern gray squirrels, obviously. Definitely one of my personal favorites, because I've had the opportunity to work with this particular species before, the Virginia opossum. The opossum itself. And if you give me any type of negative feedback about opossums, I'm going to talk to you. Because opossums in general are very beneficial to us. If you do not know, opossums are actually North America's only marsupial, and one single opossum can actually eat upwards to about 5,000 ticks per summer. Just saying. Possums, skunks, coyotes, red fox, and the gray fox. Depending on the time of the year and depending on the part of the county, you can see signs of black bears, but that's usually on the north side of the county. I know Latta Nature Preserve last year actually discovered a bear print on the preserve property. So depending on the time of the year. Other than that, snakes as usual. Big snake fan here. Black rat snakes, corn snakes. Racers. Whew. What else? Snakes in general. Copperheads are usually the most common venomous snake species, but they're usually gone before you even see them. And if you do see them, they're pretty much camouflage as well. I think that and all the amphibians within the city limits, green frogs, bullfrogs, chorus frogs, all different types of salamander species. I mean, Donna, I can go on for a minute. I'm gonna stop right here.
Okay, thank you.
That was a great answer, Matthew. I couldn't have done it better myself. Great job. And I did see Kristen Grubert's hand next, so I just wanted to give her the chance, and then we'll move to Pat. And if anyone does want to raise their hand, it's in the top right-hand corner of your screen, and it looks like a little hand symbol. So if you can't find that, top right corner. So go ahead, Kristen.
Hi, Matthew. Great job. I moved down here 7 years ago from New York. And, this was, I've seen some of these with the Native Plant Society and stuff like that, but not a lot of them. So that was awesome. I do have a quick question with regard to the invasives. Is the county doing anything to deal with the fact that there are still nurseries selling invasives around here? I mean, you can still buy ligustrum and privets and honeysuckle and all that kind of stuff. Is anyone trying to do anything about that? Do you know?
That I'm not fully aware of, but I can definitely ask any of my natural resource colleagues if they're doing anything about that. So if you provide your email, I can definitely get back to you about that answer, Kristen.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll send. I'm not sure how to do that.
I'll get your email over to him, Kristen.
Okay, thanks a lot, Tara.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Pat, if you had a question. Oh, I think you're on mute, Pat.
Okay. I didn't have a question as much as I wanted to say thank you for this fabulous presentation. We just moved here from Hampton, Virginia in October, and I am grateful to see Donna again because I had a lengthy conversation with Donna in Wild Birds and she gave me a lot of information, and this is kind of pulling it all together. I'm very committed to joining whatever organization as a member, so please let me know which ones I should join. As a new resident we're in Union County, but we're just across the county line. I'm fascinated to learn about all of these preserve areas quite by chance. My dog and I discovered Stevens Creek. I thought it was fabulous. I was so excited that it was an area where there were no bikes, so it was just people and dogs and families and dogs, and I felt exceedingly safe because I saw lots of women walking by themselves with their dogs. I can't say enough. It's in the age of COVID, to be able to get out and take long, awesome walks has been very therapeutic. I'm in for joining all the organizations, the Wildlife Stewards, Parks and Recs. My uncle was director of park and planning in Montgomery County, Maryland, many years ago, so I know the benefit of preserving and maintaining parklands. So sign me up. Sign me up. I'm in. Thank you. This was awesome.
I'll get you our information.
Okay. But I'm also grateful to have safe places to be able to walk with the dog, and I'm just impressed. Thank you. This is such a wonderful service. I'm very impressed. Thank you. From an outsider's perspective, I did never have this in Northern Virginia, nor did we have it in Hampton, Virginia. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, we are excited to have you here, Pat. Thanks for moving here. That's wonderful.
I'm in.
And I just had one question. I didn't see any more questions, but feel free to go ahead and raise your hands. But as an avid bird watcher, is there a bird that you know exists in Mecklenburg County that you have not yet seen in Mecklenburg County?
Ooh,
tough one. Yeah.
That is a tough one. Wow.
If you don't have an answer, then you can just list your favorite species that you've seen in Mecklenburg County, and that will do.
I will go with the latter. I'm gonna go with the latter. I saw, in the Cotswold area, not too far from the Publix in the Cotswold area, a bird called the Western Tanager. Beautiful bird. Only can usually be found if it's during winter. It's supposed to be only found in Mexico and Central America. So we're not sure why it was over here, but it was at somebody's backyard feeder, just feeding on their seeds. I'm like, wow. So that was a really big one for me. What's other ones? I've seen, roseate spoonbill at Mcalpine. That was the first recorded sighting of a spoonbill in the county's history. So it was a privilege just to be there witnessing it and just seeing it. That was beautiful. I always still get, my heart always skips a beat when I see any birds of prey. So red-tailed hawks, red-shouldered hawks, and obviously bald eagles. I wish I can see a peregrine falcon, but we haven't seen them. I haven't seen them here in Mecklenburg County, but I know there actually is recorded sightings, but there hasn't been a recorded sighting to my knowledge in a little while. So other than that, I think there's other birds. I can keep going. There's other birds. I'm gonna stop.
Well, thank you. That was a great answer. And I think a few of us here saw the roseate spoonbill. That same particular one, I recognize a few people on the call, and I know those people also said that they saw it. So that's pretty cool. And we have a question from Ernie.
Yeah, thank you, Tara. Matthew, thanks for doing this. Great job on the presentation about our nature preserves. My question is, with land being what it is and hard to come by and finances, is Mecklenburg County done with nature preserves, or will they try to eke out some more of those before all the land is used up? Thanks.
Great question, Mr. Ernie. In terms of actually acquiring more land, it is definitely in the plans to get more natural areas. I know in 1997, we developed the Mecklenburg County Nature Preserve Master Plan, which solely is to acquire more and more natural areas for the local wildlife and for our local residents to experience. So definitely, we are going to be definitely acquiring more and more land and purchasing more and more land. Like I said throughout the presentation, there's few nature preserves that have just been created within the last year or the last 2 years. My preserve, Stevens Creek, Flat Branch, Big Rock, and the other nature preserves. So definitely.
Thank you, Matthew. And did anyone want to add anything extra? Question for Margaret or comment?
Just comment. Matthew, I used to work uptown, and there was peregrine falcons that lived on top of some of the buildings uptown because you would see them from the windows.
Yeah. And I just want to throw out, definitely get out the nature preserves as things are starting to bud out, and, we'll be moving into spring. But also, they're wonderful places. I mean, go in the fall and shuffle through the leaves. And even in the winter, I used to really hate winter, but I've learned to really appreciate it because you see more of the architecture of the trees and of the woods. And you'll see things that you normally wouldn't that are hidden by leaves. Turn over a log. Always roll it towards you in case there's something that needs to slither away. It'll slither away from you. But do that in the summer. Do it in the winter. I found some really weird fungi growing on logs, under logs. So anyway, there's something there every season.
Thanks, Donna. I think we do have one more question from Mike, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
I'm a bird nut too. And Morgan, where's the best place to go out and photograph wading birds right now?
Great question, Mike. Oh, man.
I'm looking for a great answer now too.
Okay. All right. There's going to be a few. Areas, depending on what part of Mecklenburg County or Charlotte Mecklenburg area that you're in. But, birders, we go to just about anywhere to take pictures. So,
well, I'm in Kannapolis, but I'll go anywhere.
Okay. So, let's see. Jeez. Lake Norman.
Mcalpine Greenway has a resident great blue heron and I think some egrets.
Yep.
Which
Mcalpine.
Mcalpine Greenway Park.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. Mcalpine, when you go to that park, there's 2 ponds. In the Beaver Pond, that's where you see a lot of wading birds located at, especially the resident great blue heron. It's March now, so they're probably gone. But there was once a population of hooded mergansers at the pond at Clark's Creek, but it's March now. They might have already left. West Branch, definitely you want to go out there because I know I spotted quite a few wading birds and waterfowl there. Let's see, what else? Any of the larger nature preserves, Lotta, Mcdowell, you're going to spot wading birds, great egrets, great blue herons, among other things. And at Lotta Nature Preserve and Mcdowell, you're definitely going to spot ospreys diving into the water and hunting fish. So, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This was amazing, and we all have our work cut out for us now. We have a lot of places to go this week and weekend, so I hope everyone is excited and took some notes. Well, thank you so much, everyone. This was wonderful, and we will see you all soon. Have a great night. Get out there and explore the nature preserves. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.